guys, Debbie here. Today's video is going to be the second in my series, Palettes of the Past. You guys seem to enjoy the first one that I did, which was with the Kat Von D Shade and Light Eye palette. So decided to do another one. And if you guys know me at all, you'll know how much this brand has played a big part in my makeup journey. And it is of course Urban Decay. And I decided to do a video on the Vice palettes because A, it was requested by you guys, but B, I've not used these in the longest time and there's a lot of colour in there, and I think I can create something a little bit special using one of these palettes in particular. So I'm going to be using this one, which is the Vice 4. I've still got it in its bag here. And I'm going to also give you a bit of a history of the palettes just briefly. I've got 3 of them in my collection and there were 5 in total. So I'm going to take you through that, and then you're going to see an eye look, and I'm going to pull in some other Urban Decay products because their eyeliners, their 24/7 glide on eyeliners, are game changers to use with their eyeshadows. I'm going to be using a couple of colours of those and doing something creative, you know me. So if you want to see that, then just please keep on watching. Okay guys, so before we get into actually doing the eye look, I thought I'd take you through a little bit of a history of the Urban Decay Vice palettes. So the first one, Vice 1, came out in 2013 and the second in 2014. I don't own those. But then in 2015, they brought out the Vice 3, which is this one. I don't know why I don't own the first 2 actually, because I've been a fan of the brand for way longer than that. Just didn't pick them up for whatever reason. But they came in these little bags, and I always try and keep all my packaging. And that was the palette, so it's pretty reflective. It's going to reflect horribly off of my lighting there. So I won't dazzle you with that for long, but I will show you the shades on the inside. So like all of the Vice palettes, you got a double-ended brush. The brushes change depending on which of the palettes you got, but this one had quite a fluffy side and then a packing side, and they're okay. I don't really love their brushes anymore, but at the time I thought they were good because I didn't know any better. But they're a little bit scratchy, not the best. But that's the shades in the palette. So I'm just going to bring it to the side so that I can talk to you and sort of see you at the same time. But this one I thought was quite interesting. It's got the jewel tones. Most of them had the jewel tones and some neutral kind of blending out shades. There was very few colourful mattes. That's the only problem with these palettes, but this one was kind of, as I say, like they all are, half neutral, half colourful. You normally had a pop of green, a pop of kind of a reddish shade, but I don't find this one quite so interesting as the other 2 that I've got. But this one was the Vice 3. I got it as a present from my mum for Christmas, this one. In 2016 they brought out the Vice 4, and this is the bag that one came in. I think the idea was that you could use those bags as like a makeup bag afterwards, but they do really protect the palette as well. And this one had some of the best packaging I've ever seen Urban Decay do. It's raised, like sort of 3D, shattered, iridescent, just absolutely beautiful. And this is the one we're going to use today because this is the one that inspires me the most, I think, of the 3 that I own. Again, you've got very similar brush. This one obviously matching more the theme of the palette, but again you've got the fluffy side and the packing side. And this is the colours in this one. So yeah, it's quite reflective packaging. Sorry guys, I think that is going to reflect off quite badly. But the reason I want to use this one is there's a really nice dual tone green in there, and I've got a plan for that, and I want to use the purple and pink that's in here. And I also want to use this shade. So got a plan for it. Again, as I say, they're severely lacking in colourful mattes. You've got some cool tone mattes and kind of a warm tone brownish reddish matte there, but nothing in the colour zones of any of these. So the idea, I think, of these were for the person who wanted a neutral look but with a pop of colour, and I think this is why they were pretty popular and why they kept coming out with them, because that's a lot of people's makeup style, I think. But that's the one we're going to be using today. But I've got a really interesting one in my collection. I just want to show you that before we get on to using the palette. So in the following year, in 2017, they brought out a very limited edition, a special palette, and it's the Vice XX Reloaded, which is this one here. Didn't come in a bag, this one, but the reason it came out was for the 20th anniversary of Urban Decay being a brand. Again, it's got the same sort of brush in there. This one is special though because it had a lot of their shades from the past but reformulated into better formulations, some of which had been discontinued and then some from their current stock, but as I say, much better. So this is the colours in it. I should just show you it like that. And it's got one of their most iconic shades ever, which is this shade here, which is Midnight Cowboy, which doesn't look anything particularly special when you look at it there, but it's like a champagne-y pink with silver sparkles in it. It used to be gritty as hell, it was terrible, but that one's really smooth, so it's quite an interesting shade. But there's some fan favourites in here, like UVB, that shade there. There's a beautiful gold in here, but all in a lot better formulations, and it sort of takes you back to why they were so popular. Like you've got shades like Oil Slick in there, you've got the very urbanized kind of names, and I think that typified the brand in their beginnings. And this was the last of their kind of interesting Vice palettes like this. They stopped this format after this, so I'm super happy to have this in my collection. I was thinking about doing a look with this one, but I thought you're more likely, if you had any of these palettes, to have the Vice 4 than any, so thought I'd do that. But I'm interested to dip into it again because there are some beautiful shades. These mossy greens on the side are really, really pretty. It's got a few of those shades that are like mattes with sparkles as well, but as I say, if you look at some of the names in here, I'll say there's Asphyxia, Freak Show, Goldmine, Twice Baked. That's a famous one that came in a lot of their more naked kind of palettes. So yeah, there's some really special shades in there, but we're gonna save that one maybe for another time, and you guys will have to let me know if you would like to see me use that one. But as I say, we're going to use the Vice 4 today. Now, before getting into the eye look, if you decide to play along and use this palette, use it at your own discretion. You know, it's a 6-year-old palette, so the shelf life of eyeshadow is meant to be like 24 months max, but I use mine until they don't perform anymore, and I'm sure it's going to be fine. But as I say, if you decide to use it, just bear that in mind because it is quite old. But as I say, what we're going to do is going to be doing something with the greens, the purples and the pinks. So let's just get started. Part of the reason for doing these is to use techniques I've developed now that I didn't have back then, and kind of take an old formula that's probably not the greatest anymore, but see what I can do with it and kind of inspire you guys to perhaps pick up some really old things from the past, but just for entertainment, for you to see these things again, really. So we're going to use the soft ochre paint pot. I would have used the Urban Decay Primer Potion with that, but I don't have any of that. I used to really like that though. I don't know if you guys remember the Primer Potion when it was in like what looked like a potion bottle. That's when I remember it the most. And then they brought it out with like the brush in it, but it didn't used to have the brush. I've still got some somewhere in one of my special edition palettes with all the like the pop-ups in them and the light up scenes and things. If you guys want to see the 30 odd palettes that I've got from Urban Decay in my collection, I will link the video that I did when I first started my channel, where I really go into Urban Decay and why I used to love them so much. I say used to because they've gone very much on the naked train, and they do occasional palettes that interest me, like the Game of Thrones I was so excited for, but yeah, there's not so much anymore that appeals to me as a colourful eyeshadow lover. Okay, so we're all primed. Now I'm gonna do something a bit odd to start off the look because I want to play with a couple of 24/7 liners. And these are a couple of my favourites in my collection, but the one we're going to start with is Deep End, and I'm going to put that in my lower lash line and waterline and create kind of a wing coming up from the bottom to start off the look, because that's going to form some of the structure of the look I want to do. So I'm just taking that up in quite a high wing shape, and it's going to join another colour later, but it's just to give me like the outline of where I want to go to. Just going to smudge that out while it's still smudgeable, just on that lower lash line. You guys probably know I use the Linda Hallberg mood crayons a lot, or core crayons as well, but these were the forerunners for those for me, and I used to use these all the time. There's some beautiful colours. So again, just taking that up into a sort of wing shape, and then smudging out the underside of that. I'm going to use some shadow over that to set it later, but that just gives us the beginnings of the look. Now we're severely lacking in mattes, as I say, so we're going to use this one, which is Discreet, just to set in the crease area. I'm using quite a big fluffy brush to do that, and I'm just taking that right through the crease area to where I've started off that wing shape. Barely shows up on my skin tone, this colour. I'm going to try using this shade Harlot. It is a kind of satiny shade. I'm going to see if that will blend in my crease. One good thing about Urban Decay's formula is it is quite blendable. They're not the most popping shimmers in the world, but they do blend, so yeah, that's giving me a bit more of the effect that I wanted. Yeah, I'm going to use that as like a transition shade for the look, so I'm going to take that quite high. Might need to re-intensify that green later, but I just wanted to give me kind of the point at which to go to so I don't take it out too far. Almost like the equivalent of using tape in a way. Next I'm going to take this shade Beat Down, and I'm going to apply that in the outer corner. That's not nearly as pigmented as I was hoping for. It is a shimmer shade, so I think I'm going to spray it, see if that helps with the fallout situation and a bit more pigmentation. Yeah, that helps a lot. So I'm just pretty much taking that in the shapes that I've done the wing from underneath. So next I'm going to use the shade 1985, and that's going in my inner corner. And that one's a little bit easier to work with, I think. I'm going to bring this up quite high. I'm using a Morphe E36 here. Again, I'm just going to spray that just to try and get a bit more pigmentation. But I'm bringing that up in the kind of shape that I've done the outer corner, if you can see, to join up with my brows there. We've kind of got a diagonal shape occurring here now. Sort of going to be a version of a halo eye in a way. The fun bit's going to be trying to get the symmetry to work here. A little brush like this is key so that you've got a little bit of control of where you're putting that shadow, but it also is helping me to blend it as well. I think this is looking quite cool so far. I don't very often take my shadows right up to my brows like this, but I think it's going to work. It's going to look quite cool. In the section that we've left here now, I'm going to use the shade Fastball, this one here. I've got my Urban Decay electric brush, thought I might use that. It's got quite a good packing brush there, so I'm going to use that to lay down that shade. It's a satin shade and it doesn't have a great pigmentation, so again I'm wetting it. It's helping a little bit. We are going to go over that with something a bit more sparkly anyway. I'm pretty much taking that through that whole area that I've got left here. Blending that by tipping the brush on its edge with that pink that's there. Don't need to worry too much about my lids because I am going to go over the lid space anyway. Yeah, if you don't spray these, they're not very impressive. But there is a beautiful sheen from that in the brow area. I don't know if you can see. Just trying to get a little bit of a blend with that purple, but it's not that easy to do. Don't know if I'm liking where that purple is. I might change that a little as we go along. For the lids, we're going to use this shade Flame. I'm going to go in with a little bit of glitter glue though, which is something I would never have used back in the day when I bought this palette, so interesting to see what impact that has. I'm just doing the lid area, so I'm stopping sort of once I get to my crease there. Picking up some of that Flame shade and applying that in the centre. It's a beautiful coppery sparkly shade. So that's just going into my crease and stopping sort of as it gets to there. And same thing on the other eye. This one's quite a gritty shade, but it's really pretty as well. It's got a fieriness to it. It's ending up being quite a spring look, considering there's quite a lot of jewel tones in this palette, but we're not finished yet. I want to try and get a bit more intensity for this wing, and I'm going to use less to do that. Can't really talk when I do this, so you just have to bear with me, but I want to bring it across like that. That's it. That's a bit more what I wanted. In all honesty, I think I could have lived without that initial purple shadow that we used and just use this pencil to do this. So I'm just going to go over where that shadow is with this pencil. I suppose having the shadow there has helped blend it in. I'm just going to do the same on the other eye. I want to re-intensify the deep end shade now. As I say, I thought it might get a little bit lost in the look, so we're using that underneath that purple wing. Now I'm going to go in with that Grasshopper shade on the lower lash line. I've got a Linda Hallberg 301, packed it on there and sprayed it. Taking that right into the inner corner. Alright, so that's everything out of the palette. But I've got an iconic product from Urban Decay to use just in that centre. I don't use glitter very much, but I don't mind these. They kind of stay put and I don't worry that I'm going to get glitter in my eyes. So it's one of the heavy metal glitter liners. This is Volume. And I'm just going to intensify the glitter on the lid. Just over that shade that we applied there. Just for that extra pop of sparkle there. Okay, so that's the look to this point. Just going to go off camera for the finishing touches. Be back with you with the finished look. Okay guys, so here's the finished look. I finished it off just with BadGalBang Mascara. Haven't added any additional wing liner because we've got that wing shape going on already. And then for lips, I've got in with a 24/7 Glide On pencil in the shade Blackmail to line my lips, and then a Vice lipstick in the same shade to fill them in. And I always like to do a deep dramatic look if I've got kind of almost pastel-y shades on my eyes, just to give that balance. But you could equally, if you wanted to, go in with a nudie kind of shade. And at the time when these Vice palettes came out, this lipstick was very popular. This is 1993. That kind of a caramelly tone would have made things a lot more wearable for some, I'm sure, but I just love me a deep lip. This was fun to do. It reminds me of how the quality is for Urban Decay. Like, they're solid and they work, but they are not the most pigmented off the bat. And there was a severe lack of mattes in the palettes. And I think that's another reason why I didn't like the Born to Run palette very much, because there were very few colourful mattes to balance out those dual tone shimmers. And their shimmer formula is like a satin to shimmer kind of formula. It's not the most bam impactful shimmer formula you've ever met. So I think they're catering to like the masses of people that love a neutral look but with just that little pop of colour, and I think that's why they ventured into the naked palettes, because of how popular that is. I don't think that the shadows have diminished in quality either. They perform pretty much as I remember them doing, and yeah, I still managed to get a dramatic look, albeit bringing some pencils in as well, and it was fun just to go down memory lane a bit and give this palette a little bit of love. It'd be great to know if you guys have got this palette and how you find it, whether you like it. As I say, the packaging is just to die for. I think they should do more of that. That was just stunning. And there are some beautiful shades in there. Is it my favourite palette in my collection? Absolutely not, but it was fun to use it. So guys, I'd love your input on what you would like to see next in this series, or whether you're even enjoying the series at all. I've got one kind of plan that I want to do, and it's a palette that I hate, but I'm hoping to like bring some techniques to the party that I've picked up along the way and actually make a good look with it. But it is a very iconic palette from the past that I'm going to be using. But I'd love some more ideas, even if it's just name a brand that you'd like to see a throwback palette from that was iconic from them, and I'll see if I've got it in my collection. And yeah, we'll go from there, because they're super fun to do. It's just nice to play with my makeup and things that are just sat there for a long time gathering dust. So yeah, just let me know guys, what would you like to see? But thank you so much for watching. If you're new to my channel and this is the first video of mine that you've seen, then thank you for clicking on it. I hope you might consider subscribing before you go, and also hitting that notification bell so that you're notified of my future uploads. I'm uploading 2 or hoping to get up to 3 times a week. Some of it's throwback content like this, but most of it has a theme in common, in that I like to push it a little bit with the creativity. So to inspire you with colour combos and things you could do, you can always tone it down a notch. I know that my regular subscribers have said, you know, some of the looks I do are out there for them, but it gives them their ideas of colour combos to bring together that they could then rein it back but introduce into their makeup routines. So as I say, hope it might have inspired you to do that, and you might stick around for some more videos from me. But guys, hope you're doing well and you're keeping safe and well. Hope you're having a lovely day or night wherever you are, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye guys.